A Conservative MP, well, Andrew Rosindell, a Conservative MP for Romford, is always proudly talking about the United Kingdom. And we were talking about this in the meeting earlier, and we wanted to cover this because it's often said that flying the flag of, St George in this country isn't patriotic. In fact, it's often racist. And it's always confused me why the Welsh can be proud of Wales and the Scottish can be proud of Scotland and the Irish can be proud of Ireland. But if we try and fly the St George's flag or we try and do that, we're told that it's wrong and it's not respectful to every single other person in the world. Andrew Rosindell called on the BBC recently to play the national anthem, and today, brilliant, has retweeted a requirement that the Union flag should be on all UK number plates. Because I was thinking about this. You get the green mark, don't you, if it's one of them vegetarian cars, the ones that don't, I don't know what they are like. Andrew Rosindell, welcome to Talk Drive. How are you?
Hello, Jeremy. Good afternoon. Yes, I'm great, thank you. How are you?
I'm well, sir. Delighted to have you on. Thank you for joining us. Andrew, can I just ask you, by starting at the top of what I said, people say that if you're patriotic in this country, it's racist. Why is that? Why do we not allow ourselves to be proud of the country that we live in? What's your answer to that?
Well, it's a jolly good question, and I've grappled with it for years and years. I'm pretty tired of people that seem to want to denigrate British symbols and British identities if we should have something to be ashamed of. I think the opposite is true. I think we have a proud nation with a fantastic history. We've contributed to the development of the world like no other country. And patriotism is a good thing. Nationalism, I'm against, but patriotism is a good thing and it should be promoted. And flying the flag, singing our national anthem, supporting our Queen, particularly in the year of the Jubilee, I think it's all jolly good and we should be promoting it in every way possible.
You talk about a really interesting point, though, the line between patriotism and nationalism. I mean, I just see far more pride, patriotism, in other countries, but I don't know why this country is not allowed to. Let's talk about the flag of St George. Let's talk about what they don't want us to talk about, Andrew. Some people will say this is small-minded. I don't think it's small-minded at all. Why are certain councils unwilling to allow people to fly the flag of St George on their houses or wherever? Why is that apparently wrong?
Well, it's not wrong, and those that say the flag should not be flown are really behaving appallingly, and we had the same problem in my local council years ago. They wouldn't fly the Union Jack, then they wouldn't fly the Cross of St George. I'm pleased to say that Havering Council now fly both all year round. England is our country, the United Kingdom is our nation. We should be proud of being both English and British, and I don't see any reason why both flags should not be flown on all public buildings and indeed at schools where young people will learn about our history and our traditions. And I've suggested the other day that actually one thing that could happen is that a different pupil in a school each morning should be given the honour of raising the flag, and that would be another way of instilling pride and patriotism in the younger generation.
When you're talking about patriotism, when you're talking in, whether it's online or you're talking in Parliament, what would it amongst your friends in the House of Commons, all of them who are sitting on their hands waiting to see what happens to Boris Johnson, is there support for what you say, or are you sort of looked at as some sort of crazy man? What do they make of what you say, sir?
They used to, years ago, they used to say, oh, you must be, BNP or National Front just because you're proud of the flag. I used to be accused of that particularly by the Labour people all the time. But now that's changed. It's amazing. Certainly on the Conservative side, there's no issue about flying the flag and showing pride in our country.
Yep.
And I can tell you there are a lot of Labour MPs who are also patriotic too and have supported my campaign for the national anthem and for the flag. There are people on the woke side, which I find despicable, really, because what they're trying to do is really denigrate the entire history of our country. There are those people who don't want to see the Union Jack, the Cross of St George, who really have no time for the celebrations for the Jubilee. There are people like that, and they don't tend to be in the majority, but sadly the minority that express that view seem to get greater coverage on the BBC and on some of the media, not talk radio, but on other sections of the media.
I don't understand. Let me tell you how much I support what you're saying. And I haven't mentioned my dad. That person always says I mentioned my dad. I haven't mentioned my dad for a while. He passed last July. We know that. He worked for the royal family. We know that. He was very proud. He was proud of this country. He was proud of this nation. And I don't believe that the older generation should have to apologise for that. We seem to have got to a point, Andrew, don't we, where we want to... eradicate the past. And whilst I understand we have to learn from the past, and I'm the first one to point out that there are many things from the past that are fundamentally wrong, I do also think that this sort of whitewash, this, let's just scrub all of this into history is fundamentally wrong. And I don't know where it ends. And I was saying to a friend the other day about wokeism, and he said, it's too late for our generation. He's 60, I'm 56. He said, but in 20 or 30 years' time, there will be a full turn back. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I'm not saying that we should be, the colonising power we were years ago, and that was totally wrong in many ways. But I do think we should be proud of who we are and what we are, don't you?
Yes, I couldn't agree more. I think that those who denigrate the history of this country, those who want to tear down statues and rewrite British history are completely in the wrong. And really, it's an insult to all of our forebears that did so much to give us the great country we live in today, providing freedom, democracy, rule of law, and the right to live in a free society. And I'm afraid that in schools, and particularly in universities, our young people are being brainwashed with a lot of woke nonsense.
Yep.
They're not taught proper British history. They're taught to sneer at these things. And I think Boris needs to get back on the right track again. The one thing he has to do, in my view, is to seize this opportunity to stand up for British values and British traditions and make sure that the lefty mob, and I call them that, and I make no apologies for calling them that, are stopped from taking our country in a direction whereby young people grow up to actually dislike the very country that has given them everything. So we have a job to do.